From the Midwest, we head over to our second coastal city of the season so far, in a very interesting track that I honestly did not know anything about before I looked it up to talk about it here. Tonight we're in Long Beach, California at the Long Beach Street Circuit, nestled on the road circling the Long Beach Convention Center and Aquarium here in Southern California. Right now we are in qualifying. You're looking at Brett Guzik taking his qualifying laps around. Nobody set a time so far. I'm Evan Wall, and I'm here with my commentator, Marshall Crocker. I'll let him go ahead and introduce himself and talk a little bit about Long Beach since he knows a little bit more about the track than I do.
Hi, everybody. As always, I am your other co-commentator alongside Evan, Marshall Crocker Jr. It'll be a pleasure to kind of get into my neck of the woods. As more of a road course specialist myself, it's really exciting to come to a track like Long Beach that, in a traditional stock car series like with the Xfinity cars running this season, not exactly a layout or a circuit that you'd expect to go to on one of these calendars, but it's a pleasure that we're able to, because Long Beach is, though it may be an unusual track for those of you that are not used to street racing, it just kind of feels like it was tossed into the bustling city landscape of Long Beach, California. But it's a great layout. There are so many fun elements to it. There's corners you couldn't see on any other road course on the NASCAR calendar. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be definitely a race of attrition, definitely about surviving the first couple laps on cold tires. But once guys are able to settle into a rhythm and get used to the tight street circuit, the tight walls around every corner, and just focus on the race at hand, I think it could be really fun. And I'll gladly talk more about it throughout the race. But I think, a long story short, tight walls, tight track. But I think it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be something different for our series for this season.
Yeah, so one of the things that I want to go ahead and quickly bring up, since we haven't had anyone set a time yet in qualifying, I want to go ahead and bring up the points so far in the season. So right now, first of all, Brandon Jackson and Dustin Franklin, they have both won a race. Jackson last week at Iowa, then Dustin Franklin at Daytona. So those guys are obviously already entered into the chase once our regular season is over. But right now, leading our points without a win is the 7 car of Benjamin Lacey, sitting there with 88 points. Then Brandon Jackson. We've got Nick Nickerson, who's definitely one of the favorites to win here tonight, followed by Robert Mathis and Trey Ellis. But just give you a little quick rundown of, here's the top 18 in points, and we'll go ahead and scroll so you can see some of these other guys. So you can just see a little bit of a look at the points, and you really see how close a lot of these guys are in points here throughout 2 races, and it'll only widen as we get a little bit further down into the series. And right now we've got, I believe, around 26 cars entered today. So even just being at this race, you're going to get a good jump here in the point standings going into the rest of our regular season. So you see, rounding out our points, 44 total drivers here. So right now, Nick Nickerson is sitting on top of the board, which is honestly no surprise. He was the quickest qualifier by almost 2 seconds, over 2 seconds actually. His best lap, 1:24. Second place was at a 1:26, and here in qualifying, that's how it is. His best lap, a 1:24.19. Second place is the 85 car of Cody Welch with a 1:26.12. So a really big lead for the number 2 car of Nick Nickerson. Definitely one of the favorites here tonight. If you watched any of last season, you know he was definitely the road course ringer here.
Yeah, just an absurd level of pace coming out of the 2 car here in qualifying. But it's important to note before we get into the race, even with that insane amount of speed, almost 2 seconds, as you mentioned there, Evan, to the next car of Cody Welch in second. But with the style of race Long Beach is, with how many cars we're packing onto a track, that it's a decently long lap. I mean, it's less than 2 miles, shorter than all but, I think, shorter than I think about 4 tracks on the NASCAR schedule. So it's not a very long track. And certainly over the course of enough laps with that kind of pace, you're going to catch up the lap cars quite quick. And while there are some wide sections, as you'll see as we watch on board here with Brandon Jackson, you're going to see there are some wider sections to the track. But certainly there are a few tighter areas of the track where passing lap cars is more difficult than it would be anywhere else. And for a leader like Nick Nickerson, not only does he have to focus on trying to be as quick as he can, keeping up those pace those laps from qualifying. But he's also got to think about lap traffic and just staying clean over the 40 lap duration in the context of the other cars around him. And that's easier said than done for sure.
If we go ahead and pull up our race info screen, you can see the track map and you can see kind of the configuration of the track here at Long Beach. Of course, it's in USA and California, and it's 1.95 miles long. And another thing to note, fairly hot day here today, 106 degrees Fahrenheit track temperature, 71 degree Fahrenheit ambient air temperature, 54% humidity. So that hot of a track, it's definitely going to be really slick. I know a lot of these guys, when they were testing it out, it wasn't as hot the whole time, and so they were able to run a little bit quicker lap times. But being slicker, it's going to slow the car down. They're not going to be able to hold it through the turns as much. See a little bit of trouble for the 99 car. Now we're switching over to last year's champion, Ricky Hart Jr., the 64.
Yeah, I mean, you talked there, Evan, about the track temperatures and just how tough it'll be on those hotter temps in terms of the tires being slick and it being tough to keep some grip through the corners. Already difficult enough here at Long Beach with cold tires. It's infamously one that does not have a very forgiving beginning of the lap. Lots of tight turns coming out of high-speed straightaways, so it'll be tough on cold tires. It'll definitely cause a lot of chaos there at the beginning, but Ricky Hart Jr. ran some pretty respectable laps there in practice, so let's see if he can put a time similar up in qualifying and maybe move himself up the leaderboard into the top 5.
And another thing that I think we definitely have to mention, no full course yellows tonight. There's only going to be local caution flags. But I mean, of course, if the track is blocked, there will be a yellow called. But no full course yellows, just local cautions. Definitely going to be a really important factor heading into the race here.
I mean, it may be Long Beach, but it's not going to be a very long race. I mean, you talk about 40 laps there. We run about a minute and a half, as you'll see. Once we get the qualifying times up, it's about a minute and a half per lap on average, and you take into account, cautions if we get one or pit stops and things like that. But 40 laps over about a minute and a half, it'll take us about an hour just over. So for a track that is, as I mentioned or alluded to just momentarily, it's pretty tough to pass without a very long race to work with. It's definitely going to inspire some of the guys that may feel more confident with their abilities here at Long Beach to make more aggressive moves as compared to a longer race like we had last week at Iowa, where you have more time to make those big moves rather than here tonight where, well, you kind of got to get it going there at the beginning if you want to come away with the top spot tonight.
And also something always important tonight, we are going to have one fast repair and one extra set of tires. So always something to note, always want to note our limits that we have going into each race. So again, these drivers are going to have one fast repair. As always, every single track they're going to have one fast repair, but one extra set of tires when they come in the pits.
And it'll be interesting to see how those drivers use those extra tires, because it's really not too much of a necessity over the course of, well, as I mentioned, not a fairly long 40-lap race. Some guys, the top guys like Nick Nickerson may not even opt to use the second pair. It can depend, but it's certainly possible to for a long period of time skip that tire change. So it'll be interesting to see the strategy there on that aspect.
Yes, qualifying is wrapping up now. So far, all the drivers off the track, and Nick Nickerson with the quickest time by far, a 1:24.19. Or that's showing is 1:24.19, his best time, overall best time in qualifying, a 1:26.82. Was that his last time? No, best time, a 1:24.19. I'm sorry, getting my numbers a little bit confused here. 1:24.19 for Nickerson, his quickest time. Second place, the number 3 car of Zach Hillman with the 1:26.04. So definitely a little bit of a jump there as we get ready to go to the grid. Nick Nickerson starting on the pole, followed by Zach Hillman in the number 3 car, Cody Welch in the 85, Brett Guzik, Benjamin Lacey, Jarrett Grodzicki, Garrett Hall, Brandon Jackson, Ricky Hart Jr., and Kevin Foster to round out your top 10.
On the inside of row number 6, Christopher Ferreira in the 13 car with Matt Crockett in the 10 to his outside. Eddie Hagee will start 13th with Robert Mathis behind him in 14th. Peter Murphy in 15th with Jason Greenwell to his outside in 16th. Dustin Franklin won the first race of the season. He'll start all the way back in 17th. Let's see if he can make his way through the field. Terry Condis will start in 18th. Bill Harkins runs the series and will start 19th in tonight's race. Then Hunter Henry will round out the top 20.
In 21st, we have Victor Weaver in the 23 car, followed by Alan Castle, the 16. Then we have Thomas Finsler and James Healy. Following him in 25th position, Curtis Yancey in the 51 car, followed by Bryce Buff Mack in the 96 and Kim Janer in the 82 to round out 27th position. So we're getting ready to grid here. Taking a close look at the field all lined up. It will be a rolling start here today at Long Beach Street Circuit. We'll go ahead and show you a view of our Skype cameras here. You can see some of these guys up there in your top right corner. We got Jason Greenwell on camera, as well as Ricky Hart, Matt Crockett, Garrett Hall, Brandon Jackson, Bill Harkins, Nick Nickerson, and my co-commentator, Marshall Crocker Jr.
Hey, everybody. But yeah, so you talk about we're doing the rolling start. Interestingly enough, compared to some other road courses, we're only going to run the half lap here. We start on the, I guess you could call it the back stretch, coming up to turn number 8. So not many corners left for these guys to warm their tires up on the first lap. It'll certainly be hurting for time to do so, but hopefully they will find enough of it. One important thing to mention before we get started, Zach Hillman qualified second there in the number 3 car, did not grid by my estimation, or at least as far as I can tell. So we may be missing one of our top drivers to start off tonight's race.
And that'll definitely be definitely strange to come out qualify in second position and then not make the grid. So hopefully nothing unfortunate happened to him. He'll have to start from the back though. And already a good bit of trouble just on the pace laps. Everyone trying to get through, but we're going to focus the camera on this start. Green flag is out. Nick Nickerson leading us to green, followed by Cody Welch and Brett Guzik right behind him.
Brett Guzik, who got an early jump because he would move up to that second place spot in the absence of second place Zach Hillman. Look at the pass by Benjamin Lacey on Cody Welch into the very first corner. Somebody gets tied up there a little ways back, but that'll move Ricky Hart Jr. all the way up from 8th on the start to effectively 5th in line there. What a start for the defending champion.
Yeah, big jump for a lot of these guys, and we're already seeing a bunch of guys off track and wrecked. There's the number 8 car of Kevin Foster turned around in the fountain turn. Just barely missed by the car directly behind him, and that's definitely going to be something that we're going to see a lot of today, a lot of self-spins.
Yeah, absolutely. This race isn't just a race against your other competitors. It's a race against yourself, really, to see how much you can push yourself in that opening lap on cold tires. Important to mention as well, not only did the second place qualifier of Zach Hillman not make the start, but the 4th place car of Brett Guzik in the very first corner slid through the exit, the extra utility route for cars that slide through. So he had to do a quick flick turn, and I believe he came out about 20 seconds. So 2 of the top 4 qualifiers already out on lap 1.
We're heading to a little bit of a replay here, the number 2 car of Nick Nickerson with a little bit of a contact. So just to kind of show you, even some of the best drivers making contact here in the tight turns around Long Beach. Had a little bit of a contact with the wall there.
Yeah, so hard not to with how much these Xfinity cars can oversteer in certain corners, especially as I keep mentioning on cold tires. It can be tough even for the top guys to not limit themselves in how quick they want to be. I guarantee this is not Nick Nickerson at his absolute fastest. I mean, a 130 compared to his usual lap, even with the start being delayed, really seems to tell you that, yeah, he's going to kind of take it slow and woe it up and try to get the car up to a raceable pace before he tries to push it like he did in qualifying. It's definitely going to be a balancing act, and I think we'll start to see later in the race, more of a comfortable line develop for a lot of these guys. Guys won't be, tapping the wall quite as often on exits, but that'll be the point where we start to see more passes being made. So I'm really excited to see how long it takes some of these guys to get up to speed as compared to others.
You want to talk about cool paint schemes, and especially one that fits in. The number 10 car of Matt Crockett, look at his paint scheme tonight. The Alpine Stars In-N-Out Burger paint scheme on his Ford Mustang. Just thought that was interesting as we go through the field here. Definitely wanted to bring that up. But already a lot of damage for a good bit of these cars, as you see as we scroll through this field. The number 11 of Bill Harkins doesn't even have a hood on his 11 Mustang.
I mean, funny enough, though, it doesn't really seem to be affecting that car all too much. I think since he took that damage, I don't think he's been passed by anybody other than Eddie Hagge Peter Murphy there in the 38 car. So it doesn't seem to be hurting him too much. Although right as I say that, I think he's going to have that's Brett Guzik in the 04 to his inside, trying to work his way up after his first corner incident, starting from 4th. Now he's going to get the 94 as well. Big send there by Guzik in the 04 car.
The 51 car of Curtis Yancey really loose going through that corner.
Oh,
looking
but
to
he
make
might
the
have an
move to the
opportunity
inside.
here.
3 wide through the middle, and he made it.
Yeah, shoots the gap there between the 04 car, and I can't tell who that was that they passed. Somebody kind of checked up there in the fountain turn and had some issues. Brett Guzik almost loses the back end there now that he's been passed by Yancey, but he manages to collect it and save it. And again, we're going to see that very early in this run. Many guys that are going to have to make sure they can correct and not overcorrect, of course, but definitely a lot of seesawing of the wheel to be done in the beginning of this first stint.
And already there's another car without a hood. That'll be the 60 car of Dustin Franklin, your Daytona winner. And then Jason Greenwell directly in front of him has damage to his front end as well. So a lot of these cars already only 4 laps in and very beat up. A little bit of a bump there. Dustin Franklin in trouble for Matt Crockett as well, the 10 car.
Yeah, Crockett went around pretty about 20 seconds ago, just trying to find an opportunity to get that car flicked around, not in the way of other cars. And unfortunately, that blind turn there came around and I think tapped the 32 car of not sure who that is. That's Terry Condis. So all sorts of chaos here in lap traffic and avoiding incidents, not as your own incidents, but avoiding incidents in front of you is going to be key tonight at Long Beach.
And a big incident here, 60 of Dustin Franklin, Jason Greenwell, and Terry Condis, all 3 getting together. We'll see if we can watch an instant replay of that. So you're following along with the 60 of Dustin Greenwell right in front of him. Terry Condis, or Dustin Franklin, right in front of Terry Condis and Jason Greenwell. Matt Crockett able to squeak through right behind him.
Yeah, the hairpin, one of the most unforgiving corners on this track, let alone maybe the entire surface. If one car gets even slightly, off center coming into the corner, goes too wide, catches the wall, we could have much bigger pileups than that. I'm just glad we didn't see one there in the first lap when even more cars would have been involved.
And one thing that I want to go ahead and bring to your attention, 5 laps in, and Nick Nickerson is already 8 seconds in front of the second place car of Benjamin Lacey in the 7. So we'll go ahead and ride along with him for a second. You can just see the way that he goes around this track, and he may be 8 seconds ahead right now, but eventually he's going to catch up to some of these lapped cars, or cars that he will be lapping, some of the slower cars, and that may be a good bit of trouble for him, because right now he's all right, he's all alone, but as soon as he starts catching people, we already have one person 1 lap down, and some of these other guys Nickerson will be catching soon, and if somebody just loses it a little bit, he can easily get into Nickerson. Nickerson may not have anywhere to go, and that'll be a problem for him. That'll definitely be his biggest challenge today, is just staying out of other people's way.
Yeah, he's coming up right now towards Dustin Franklin there in the 60. We saw his incident a moment ago, and he'll be the next car in the chopping block for Nickerson. But yeah, so few opportunities in this Long Beach track to pass. And I know guys, if they aren't super experienced racing here or at tight street circuits in general, they might pick inopportune spots to try to make moves or to try to let the guy behind them by. Dustin Franklin, I mean, he's a race winner in this series. He's been clean all year. I wouldn't expect him to have too much trouble with that, but it's definitely one of those situations where as the leader, you got to put a lot of trust in the guys around you, and sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do that at a track here like Long Beach.
So you see Dustin Franklin already with a lot of damage, and there's a little bit more, and Nick Nickerson just able to squeeze through.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Is he's going to have to be avoiding stuff like that all the way through the 40 laps. It's like running an endurance race where the entire night you got to go through in situations where there's cars all around you spinning everywhere, and you just kind of can't can't lose your awareness or your focus, even if you are, as Nickerson currently is, 9.5 seconds clear of the guy behind you.
Brandon Jackson, the 99, around as well. Looking for a moment that he can get turned around and see Robert Mathis going by him. And just a really bad spot to get turned around. Not able to find some time. So you see he throws it in reverse.
Yeah, you have another car having trouble there. Oh, we almost had an incident as well. I think Dustin Franklin went around again there. Almost involved Benjamin Lacey and Cody Welch, who are now going to go side by side for second. I was just about to talk about, yeah, those high-speed straightaways into tight corners. You carry too much momentum through, and it's really hard not to get some oversteer and lose the back end like the 99 of Jackson just did a moment ago.
Yeah, Cody Welch in the 85 car, other than Nick Nickerson, one of the cleanest cars that I've seen so far as we've been scrolling through the field, and definitely a fast driver in the 85.
Yeah, for sure. I've been watching him, and he seems to maybe not attack the apex as much as other drivers, but man, he just does not seem to lose the back end. He's not having any trouble keeping the car under him, and really, you know, this early into a race, I mean, only 7 laps out of 40. That's kind of the trait I want to see more so than somebody who's making some, you know, big corner entries, carrying a lot of speed that, you know, have to make all sorts of hand movements to keep the car under them. It's good to see a guy that is just comfortable, and even the way that he approaches the fountain turn, I like a lot. So the 85's approach and the 7s are quite different there with Benjamin Lacey up front, but they both seem to be making it work, only about a second apart this far into the race.
And good race so far from Ricky Hart Jr. in the 64. Definitely always a fast driver, but not necessarily one to show out on road courses. Doing a great job of staying up here in 4th position. Staying out of trouble so far. Right behind him we have Garrett Hall, 26 car, also doing a good job of staying out of trouble. Very clean car for both the 64 and the 26, and that's really what's helping them and keeping them up here in 4th and 5th position, is just that their car is so clean.
Just watching with Benjamin Lacey up ahead, he just made contact with one of the lap cars, somebody that kind of got a little bit slow coming into corner number 8. He checked up in front of him, and Lacey tried to avoid. I mean, had a lot of damage on the lap car, so it's tough to do so. But yeah, you'll see here on the replay, just a situation of 2 guys trying to take the same piece of real estate, had to blow it up earlier, presumably because of a lack of downforce. And coming into the corner, just taps him the tiniest little bit. Shouldn't be any damage on the 7 car as a result, but this might be the opportunity Cody Welch needs. About to go side by side into corner 1. It's going to be a close battle here for that 2nd spot. He's just going to give it to Welch, but now Cody's got to get it slowed up to make corner 1 in time.
On some trouble there after the 39 car spun out of the corner. That 39 car going to be James Healy.
Yeah, that was kind of unfortunate timing there. Just as Cody Welch thought he had a break and could make the move on Lacey, he immediately has to avoid another car. And that's really what we're going to be seeing all race, is it's definitely possible to get a very damaged race car around the track even without using a quick repair, but certainly not opportune in terms of lap time. So there's going to be all sorts of variety in terms of where guys are on track. It's going to be like a short track where you get really confused as to where people are in relative to their positions. So we'll get into that stage in a minute, but for now, we're still seeing some good single double battles on track between guys fighting for spots.
And you see Cody Welch now moved into 2nd position, but Benjamin Lacey in the 7 car is not far behind. Definitely not letting the 85 drive away, that's for sure.
No, he's not at all, and he, I mean, arguably had the better flat-out pace there, not only in qualifying, where actually Lacey qualified behind, but you know, Lacey's had a little bit more pace. Looks like he's willing to test the boundaries of corner apexes more. Seems to be having trouble though. Lacey didn't pick up much speed at all down the straightaway, but now going to go back to Brett Guzik here. He's battling with the 75 of Grodzicki and won't be able to make the pass here into corner number 8. But as we come around the sweeper, this is the opportunity where if you get a little bit too wide, you don't take the right approach to the hairpin. You can lack a ton of run off the corner here as we come through. It looks like they both take it pretty well, but Guzik, yeah, the 75 might oversteer a little bit. It looks like Guzik might get the better run down the straight, but that is, it's not a lead lap car. I was going to say keep an eye on whoever's behind them, but I can't tell who that is, but they are not on the lead lap.
Yeah, Guzik with the run. They'll be side by side coming into the corner, but braking in the 75 going to still have the advantage. He's going to let him by, though, so Guzik going to take the position. Guzik up into 10th now, cracking the top 10.
Yeah, it looked like Grodzicki just oversteered a little bit on exit. I think he was worried that he might go side by side with Guzik there, so took a bit of an unorthodox line, which meant that he needed to correct. Up ahead of Guzik, actually, 2 cars are having trouble. Who is that goes around? Guzik just barely dodges him. That'll give Grodzicki the position back. Not sure which car that was having issues, but that was the car, I believe, that was involved in the incident a moment ago with... That was Welsh and Lacey up front.
It's going to be Bryce Buffmack in the Viagra vehicle. It looks like...
once you get enough damage there, it's impossible to keep the car in those, alternating altitude corners. It can be impossible to keep the car under you, and that might be what we just saw just now.
Yeah, and as we keep talking about wrecks happening in the back, 10 laps down of 40, Nick Nickerson out to a 22-second lead over the 85 car and the 7 car of Cody Welch and Benjamin Lacey sitting in 2nd and 3rd position. Now coming up to lap, Matt Crockett in 17th. Already a good bit of guys a lap down, and Nickerson working on Crockett.
Yeah, Crockett definitely hasn't had the start that I'm sure he would have liked. Started 12th on the grid, which in a race of 27 guys, really respectable time. And since then, I know has just been involved in a few things. Is just trying to keep the car under him at this point. And important to mention, actually, having that 22 seconds and 10 laps at a 40, multiply that by 4 is about 1:28. We're in about 1:26 laps here at Long Beach. So genuine possibility that Nick Nickerson can lap the field at this pace, which is terrifying. But he's got a long way to go. He's got a lot of lap traffic to pass if he wants to make that happen.
Definitely one of the best road course racers that we have here in this league. So if anybody wants to join the league that's good at road course racing, definitely going to have to encourage that. We need some competition for this number 2 car, that's for sure.
Yeah, the guy's just an absolute monster. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, he just seems to have so much confidence with his race car around every corner, and it's something that it's so hard to learn. It comes from a lot of experience to have that much, willingness to push the car on apexes, attack curbs rather than just kind of back off. It really just comes down to a game of confidence, and it's a mental thing. And Nick seems to have it. And you walk with a lot of swagger on tracks like this if you're willing to, maybe push the car more than other people. It doesn't necessarily come down to a skill thing, though. I'm sure Nick has equal, if not more, skill than almost anybody in this field tonight in terms of road courses. But yeah, it's really just getting used to the track, feeling okay with doing things with the car that some other people may not.
And real quick, I just want to go to this triple screen right here. So of course you can see the Skype up in the top right, the race in the bottom center. But up here in the top left is where you see the screen that I see that controls all the graphics on screen. And if you look at this graphic right here, the little red icons right here, the red lines, show me every time that someone gains an incident point. So the green lines are shown every time someone passes someone. For example, right here, Brandon Jackson passed Bill Harkins for P13. The red lines are every time someone gets an incident point. So this is really, it shows you how many people are getting incident points as I scroll through here, showing how many drivers are crashing. I just thought that was a little bit of an interesting component that I wanted to add to the broadcast and show you guys just a little bit of a behind the scenes here as we head back to our main view.
But the important thing to mention about that too is even with all those incidents, we still have a ton of cars only 1 lap down, still a ton of guys left in the race from our original field. So they're not necessarily all massive crashes that take multiple cars out, just little stuff that'll acquire damage over time and make the car tougher to drive. But hey, as long as you're still in the race, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's all that really matters. We still have a lot of drivers. Still have 24 drivers out on track. 27 started the race, so I don't believe 27 did start the race since we had the 2 that decided not to start. So I believe we have just 2 drivers currently not on track. I could be wrong about that, but from what it looks like to me, we just have 2 drivers that started this race that aren't on track right now. So definitely still a whole lot of drivers in contention, and nevertheless a whole lot of drivers that are going to get points compared to all the drivers that are not here tonight.
Just one guy I want to highlight for a minute, Curtis Yancey. Guy started 25th at the back of the field, didn't end up running a qualifying lap, but he's gone from 25th to 4th in only 13 laps. The guy's up 21 spots, which, I mean, if you go into percentage of where he was, is something ludicrous. But the way he's just been able to move through the field effortlessly, and it's not even a case of making a ton of passes, though. I mean, he has made a couple from what I've seen, but that is a damaged race car that's managed to make his way through right as he has to make a big save there coming through the sweeping turns 9 and 10. But yeah, he's survived. He's let the chaos happen around him, and he's just avoided mistakes. So the 51 car, 25th to 4th, and well, if anything happens with that Cody Welsh Benjamin Lacey battle up front, could put himself in the podium positions.
Yeah, and Curtis Yancey having to overcome a little bit of difficulty last week at Iowa. He was docked all of his points from the race. Unfortunately, he got into a little bit of an altercation after the race and maliciously wrecked another driver. So definitely a big hill to overcome here, losing points from last week. He definitely is going to be trying to make that up here at Long Beach.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're willing to put down the time to practice and prepare for this race, I mean, not many better tracks to do it. The baseline amount of ability here at Long Beach, you got to think is got to be lower than some other tracks, because this is not a common sense race whatsoever. So, you know, if you put in the time, you put in the work to try to learn the track, right as I say that goes bounce into the tire barrier. As long as the car keeps going, though, shouldn't have too much trouble. Though Garrett Hall in the 26 is going to be right behind him. You see the black and red car there in the background. But yeah, he's survived to this point. And if he can just keep the car to the end, that's not a bad 2-race average. Almost loses it again. Gonna wash through. I'm starting to think he's got steering damage there. It looks like the front right is just not synced to the front left. So tough to keep the car going. Though Garrett Hall had a similar issue there through turn number 7. So this shows you how tough Long Beach can be, no matter what the state of your car looks like.
Definitely a slick track here, as we've already seen a lot of guys just get loose, and that's what it seems like a lot of these accidents have been. A lot of self spins, and then once you spin, you have to find some time to get turned back around, and that's seems to be really tough to do here at such a tight track.
Oh, absolutely. It's so many 3-point turns. If any of you have ever had to do the driver's license test where they make you do one of those, you'll know how long they can take. And to try to do that during a full speed race, battling for position, it can be agonizing. But sometimes you just got to do them. If you slide through a corner, you get in a tight, narrow section. It's just not something you'll see at many ovals or even other road courses on the NASCAR calendar that I can think of.
And one thing that I want to go ahead and highlight, the 13 car of Christopher Ferrara. So last week at Iowa, we saw the Beat Cancer vehicle that I highlighted so much. So the 13 car, he decided that he wanted to run that same paint scheme here tonight. I believe it was Zach Hillman that was running that car last week, and it meant a lot to him. So the 13 car decided that he wanted to go ahead and run that paint scheme here again tonight. So a big shout out to him, and shout out to anyone fighting cancer. Obviously, thoughts and prayers go out to anyone that has been touched by cancer, or anyone that you know has been touched by cancer. So as we say that, I'm seeing a lot more accidents. We'll see if we can get back to something. You see Jason Greenwell in the 83 car. The whole hood and front clip of that car gone now.
Yeah, the interesting thing about, you know, cosmetic damage on these cars, at least from my personal experience running similar cars at Long Beach, is that, you know, you take a lot of damage over the long period of time. You see how much damage he has to the hood. You got to think it's just going to be affecting him on straightaways. But that's the thing. If you don't have any tire damage, you don't have any body damage along the sides, it really doesn't affect your handling in any meaningful way. And here at a tough road course like Long Beach, that's really all you're worried about. So as long as the car is able to run straight, you're not having to turn your wheel 45 degrees to go straight, well, you actually don't have much of an issue going forward.
And here's a driver that we saw get into an accident a little bit earlier, the 8 car of Kevin Foster. Looks like he's heading on to pit road right now, but got into an accident earlier, now sitting in 13th position.
Yeah, he's recovered quite well from where he was. Until he came into the pits, he would have been the lead driver lap down. Actually, maybe already wasn't until Nick Nickerson passed him there as he came into the pits. So he's recovered quite nicely. And anybody that isn't a lap down after getting into a major incident is doing well. Same with Brandon Jackson. We saw his issues in turn 1 earlier, where he had to do a 3-point turn to get it around, and he's recovered quite nicely all the way up to 11th. And you know, as long as he can keep the car clean, I'd say that the possibility of 2 or 3 more spots without the need to make a proper pass on track is still in the cards for the rest of this race.
Yeah, and that's something here. Usually you think with no caution flags, if you spin out, you're just kind of, your race is kind of ruined. That's at least the mindset that you go in with. But at this point, there's so many drivers. The track's so slick. Everybody's having such trouble keeping a handle on their car that you're really not. You can spin out and still work your way back up. Top 10, even potentially top 5. We've got pit stops coming up now. We're not even halfway through this race now, so definitely still plenty of time for a lot of these drivers to make it up.
Yeah, it was interesting to see what the fuel strategy would be. Again, with 40 laps, usually you'd think, okay, we'll split it in two if you have to make a stop, do 20 and 20. But, well, if you burn more fuel off now, or sorry, you take a fuel pit stop now, you burn more fuel off for the end of your second stint. The car is more nimble, easier to drive, faster on straightaways, and maybe guys are looking for the long-term speed towards the end of this race to make some passes right before that 40th lap comes up.
And if we go ahead and look at our pit stop monitor right here, see if I can get it pulled up with the correct information. Sorry. Whoop. Sorry about that. Took me a second. So Nick Nickerson, of course, and the top 10 have all not pitted. But then if we go down a little bit, we'll see the guys who have. So Kevin Foster, 15th position and down. Everybody from there has pitted, it seems like.
Oh, big incident on track for Brandon Jackson. Curtis Yancey, former race winner in the first race, just went around and kind of messed up Brandon Jackson, the second race winner of the season, just a moment ago. So those two having some troubles. Brandon able to get it back around, but right as I was about to say, we should keep an eye on Nick Nickerson because he had to go through quite the large pack of cars this lap, but he made 4 moves past the lap cars in 2 corners, which really, if that not only tells you how quick he is, but his ability to avoid chaos and avoid incidents in tough corners, which he's been doing all race, is quite admirable. This corner here, the hairpin, if he gets a big pile up in front of that, may have a more serious issue. Very hard to go too wide or anything like that through that corner, but he is going to come into the pits at this lap, right as I suggested that guys probably not wanting to cut it in half for the long-term fuel aspect of things. Well, if the race leader by about 40 seconds is coming into the pits this lap, it's probably not a bad decision to do so, though Cody Welch did come into the pits last lap, it would appear. So a couple of our main leaders are coming into the pits this time.
And one of the things that I thought was interesting, I saw before the race, I was just listening to some of the guys talk, and one of the things that I noticed was, I believe it was Bill Harkins said he could go about 20 laps on fuel, and Nick Nickerson said that he couldn't understand how Bill was able to make it to 20 laps on fuel. He wasn't able to do that. Well, Nick Nickerson is on the gas a lot more than some of these slower drivers are, so he's going to burn fuel a lot quicker. That's going to be one of these things. A lot of these guys, even unintentionally, are going to be able to save fuel very well just because they're running these slow, conservative laps.
That is interesting to think about, actually, because when I ran some practice, laps in preparation for tonight, I didn't actually find it crazy tough. Like it was close by the end, but that is something to think about. Is you're right that Nick Nickerson would definitely be using a lot more power through the corners. He's getting back on the power quicker because he's taking the apexes harder. If that's the case, and some of these guys in the back are able to do it on fuel, I don't think it'll make up an entire pit stop cycle because Nickerson is currently 32 seconds clear of Lacey, who actually is just behind Lacey now, but was 32 seconds clear of him prior to the pit stop. So I don't think it'll make up a full position to Nickerson if somebody comes into the pits, right as we see the 2 car pass the 7. Benjamin Lacey looks like he's just going to take the outside, let him by. But yeah, I don't think you can make up a full pit stop, but definitely could take one away from Nickerson and move yourself up through the field. It's interesting to think about. The less pace may mean better field strategy in the long run.
See Brandon Jackson now coming in here, and one thing interesting, Benjamin Lacey, we saw him lead for just a second. That's going to help him out a little bit because you get 1 point for leading a lap here in the Bandit Racing League. So now that Lacey has led 1 lap, he's at least going to get 1 more point other than where he finishes tonight. Even just the smallest bit of points can help you out, and Lacey is already our points leader here coming into this race, other than the guys who have won, obviously.
I'm not positive that I thought he would have, but based on Nickerson's pit box, I think there's the possibility that Nickerson did technically lead the lap, come into the pits, park in his box, and then Lacey passed him. I wasn't sure on the lap, so it'll be close. But yeah, that would definitely be a solid strategy play. Of course, the 7 car has come into the pits now, but really you're going to try to milk every point you can out of this race. And with Benjamin Lacey really only battling with Cody Welch in terms of once the pit cycle evens out, never hurts to try to go for extra bonus points where you can find them.
Trouble now for the 75 of Jared Grodzicki. Able to get it fired back up and going before anybody catches up to him, though, and into the pits he goes for the 75 car.
One battle I want to keep an eye on, because I think it's about to begin as we see even more cars setting down pit road, is between Benjamin Lacey and Curtis Yancey. We already saw how many positions Yancey was gaining there in the 51 car. He's been working his way through the field, but now as we exit out with the pit cycle, not sure if he just took less tires, less fuel, what it may be, but he's coming out right behind the 7 of Benjamin Lacey, so he's made his way through the field and found all sorts of track room. Now it's just a case of, can he finally make the move on track and work his way into the top 3?
So a little bit of trouble there for the 8 car of Kevin Foster. In that turn, back up and going, though. 10th position now for Kevin Foster.
It's one guy that has done very well for himself in this current stint in cycle and pit stops is Cody Welch. I mean, as you can see there on the left side, has gained a significant amount of time to Lacey. If that graphic is correct, which I think it is, that would be about maybe 19 seconds he made up over the course of that stint. And he certainly didn't do it all on track. I mean, he got away by about 7 seconds, I think, on that last stint, but somehow managed to find 12 seconds in the pit. So you got to wonder, is he taking less fuel because he knows he needs a second stop? Did he take less tires? Any combination of the bunch? So definitely interesting to see, but Cody Welch is finding pace somewhere, and Garrett Hall, who I don't believe is pitted yet, might get passed by the 85 car, and he actually just did there. You can see the black and red car in the background. So Welch is already up to second with the pit stop. He's, of course, very far behind your race leader, Nickerson, but he is well clear of the 3rd place car of Lacey.
So if we look here at our pit stop strategy showing the pit stop time, Garrett Hall sitting in 3rd position has not pitted. Neither has Mathis or Harkins sitting in 7th and 8th. All these other guys have pitted. You can see Welch 15 seconds in his pit box. Yancey only 10 seconds in the pit box. It's definitely something to keep an eye on there.
Yeah, I think it's just guys taking different fuel strategies here for these final 2 stints. As I mentioned before, the less fuel you take for that last stint, the quicker and more nimble your car will be towards the end of the race. So it's the trade-off of, do you want more pace now or do you want more pace later? And in this case, if Yancey's pit stop was shorter, it means that he took less fuel in trying to even it out rather than take, very little on that last stop, which, if Welch is doing, and maybe a guy like Nick Nickerson isn't, again, 45 seconds, a lot of time to make up, but genuine possibility that Welch could start closing in the gap a little bit by the end of the race.
A little bit of trouble for Lacey sitting in 4th position, got into the wall. Doesn't seem to be anything too damaging, though. Barely even a scratch on the 7 car.
Yeah, the 7 car, one of the few cars left on track that looks almost entirely spotless. Cody Welch the same way. Nick Nickerson doesn't have a scratch on that number 2 car, but after that, really everybody throughout the field has had some sort of incident throughout the race. So it'll be a good sign if in maybe 10 laps time, without using quick repairs, you still see cars without any issue, because it means once we get really nice and packed up, cars are spreading out more and more as the race goes on, that you'll still be able to avoid lap traffic as you have, well, I guess 30 laps to this point in about 10 laps. And just important to mention as well, Garrett Hall did come into the pits this time. I think he was the last car in the top 10 to do so. So now only 4 cars in the lead lap, but Nickerson, Welch, and Lacey are once again your top 3.
Yeah, and at this point, I feel like we need to mention that Nick Nickerson has lapped everyone all the way up to 5th position. So the only guys not lapped are Nickerson, Welch, Lacey, and Yancey. And Yancey is getting close to going a lap down, as are Lacey and Welch.
Yeah, not many guys left to worry about now. If he continues to make up the ground on Welch, which I think he is by about maybe just under a second per lap. Now, realistically, it'll be close. Could get him before the end of the race, but it doesn't look like the 85 car has picked up speed over the course of the run. Actually, if Okay, it did reset. I was going to say, it looked like he picked up 6 seconds at a lap. I was like, wow, that would have been probably a track record, but he's still quick. The 85 car is fast enough that even if not for pride, besides finishing second, if he keeps his current spot, it might be the only car to avoid being lapped by the ever-present, terrifying beast that is Nick Nickerson's pace here at Long Beach.
But going throughout this race, I feel like it is fair to mention, even though Nick Nickerson's so far ahead, you never know what can happen. You can see on the track map, he has a little bit of a gap before he gets to anyone. Track map up in the top right. But he's catching guys pretty quick, and as soon as he catches him, there's a little bit of a jumble in front of him, and you never know what could happen in that jumble. If something happens at the wrong spot and he's not able to avoid it, Welch, Lacey, or Yancey, they could be one of these guys that jump in to kind of take advantage of Nick Nickerson's misfortune. You see right there, he had to dodge out of the way a little bit, lapped car in front of him just a little bit slower.
Yeah, I'd estimate with his current pace, he's probably going to have to pass like 6, maybe 7 lap cars before the event is out. So he's got a lot of work left to do still. And though the good news is probably that this late into the race, guys that are still on track and without too much damage, probably a pretty good sign that they're at least clean enough to not spin right in front of him, as we almost saw a moment ago. But he made his way past that. So 1 down, by my estimation, probably 6 or 7 to go. And as long as he can keep this thing on track, it looks like he's pretty clean and clear to the win.
So we're looking at the number 8 car of Kevin Foster right now, and there's a little bit more of a gap than there was, but possibly looking to challenge the 8th position of Jarek Grodzicki. Grodzicki driving away a little bit now. Foster might have thought better of it. Kind of backed off, decided to save gas, save tires, just kind of hang out a little bit.
Well, for all the difficulties that Long Beach presents, the one thing that's really easy to do is defend. So if I'm a guy like Kevin Foster, who, to be fair, only qualified 4 spots behind Grodzicki, I mean, by about a 8/10 gap. So he's not quite as quick in terms of pure race pace, at least if qualifying is anything to go off of. But if you can just get in front of a quicker car and pick your moments and pick your places on track, it isn't all too hard to keep maybe a faster car behind you for a couple laps, or maybe even the 17 laps we have left in tonight's race.
Trouble here for the 51 car of Curtis Yancey. Looks like he at least got loose coming into that corner, and he's going to lose some time. Christopher Ferrara in the 13 car, a little bit of an opportunity for him to catch up some. Back going, though.
Yeah, still a decent ways behind is the 13 car, and now he's actually got a bunch of cars ahead of him. Ricky Hart almost got involved there with a lap car coming out of the final hairpin turn, but yeah, he's packed in with a bunch of cars. But again, if we see little mistakes like that, little slip-ups over the course of the next 16 laps, it's not out of the question at all to make up that much pace. Long Beach is a track where it seems bizarrely easy to make up large bursts of time, at least I've found in my personal experience. But again, you see the 13 car is really packed in there, but Ricky Hart, significant damage to the hood of that 64 car, defending champion you talked about earlier there, that never been a road course ringer or road course specialist per se, but he's certainly the kind of guy that can kind of adapt to anywhere, at least as far as I've seen in his season so far. So he's doing it tonight. He's driving a car with a lot less than all of its facilities intact, but it's working for him, and that's the most important thing at this point in the race.
$16 laps to go now, and Nickerson has lapped Yancey. Only drivers unlapped are Welch and Lacey, the 85 and the 7. Trouble here for Alan Castle. Looks like he has found himself off the track.
I'm really curious as to I guess, in an attempt to get that thing spun around, he actually went through the access road. There's that little gap in the barrier where it's possible to find some room there. Not a bad instinct decision there to get that car turned around, but definitely took a moment to do so. It actually looks like this texture got stuck on the wall or something for a second. A little bit of an iRacing glitch there. You see Curtis Yancey on the replay had some issues as well in the hairpin, but he was able to get that car spun around and saved. But you'll see it in a moment as he comes down here towards turn 1, just carries too much momentum through. Most commonly happens when you get in the draft and somebody else. Actually, the 16 car just went around live again and is now left, but this was the start of the troubles for that 16 car. You see coming up to turn 1, no car ahead of him to slipstream him through the apex. Just either the car locked up or, it just didn't look like it wanted to turn left, but really good instincts there from Castle to decide to go through, decide to use that wider area to do his 3-point turn there. Unfortunately, caught the wall and had damage that would eventually send him out, but for the short term, it was a really good move and good instinct decision, the kind of ones that you need to succeed here at Long Beach.
Now you see Nick Nickerson passing the 23 car of Victor Weaver. Victor Weaver in 18th position. And Nickerson able to get by him as Weaver got into the outside wall there a little bit.
Well, it looks like on my screen that another one has bit the dust. Looks like Benjamin Lacey has been. Oh, sorry, he hasn't. I lost Nickerson's place on track, but it looks like every time we throw to Nickerson or show a video of him, he's getting in an altercation with a lap car. So we really gotta stop throwing to him. We're gonna jinx the poor guy. But at the moment, it looks like he's getting closer and closer every lap to lapping Lacey. So kind of just shows you the pace again that 2-car has. He's in a world of his own, and the one thing I was worried about that I thought could be conceivably an issue here was with lap traffic, but despite all the small issues guys in front of him are having, he's found a way through all of it. He stayed composed. He's not overcorrecting the car, and that's really all you got to do here when you run NASCAR cars at such a tight and difficult road course.
And this is something that I do pretty much every race, but here with 14 laps to go, everybody down in the comments, go ahead and put who you think is gonna win. It's possible it could be somebody other than Nickerson. Who knows? Nickerson may be getting into some trouble. So go ahead and put down in the comments, who do you think it's going to be? It was right as we cut to the 64 of Ricky Hart Jr. A little bit of trouble there getting into the tires, but able to keep it going. And not too much more damage for the 64 car.
The number 2 car is going to come into the pits now. Nickerson's final stop, at least you would assume and hope if he's calculated his fuel out right. But yeah, I think the thing we're learning over the course of this race is we just got to leave the camera on the pace car and let the race happen. We're jinxing guys left and right.
Yes, now we're following along with the 85 of Cody Welch. Welch 56 seconds behind Nick Nickerson. Into the tires for him. Not going to make up much time on the 2 car. Able to do that. Back going for the 85 though.
Actually, very little damage there as a result. Didn't seem to cave in the front hood, but what that is going to do is if he has any troubles whatsoever now getting back up to speed, Benjamin Lacey becomes more of a worry, as that'll give him about a 5 to 10 second break on his gap there, about 20 seconds ahead to Welch. So second place still up for grabs, and again, as you mentioned a moment ago, so is first if Nickerson has any issues with lap traffic. Yeah, well, Welch doesn't decide to come into the pits that time, even with the damage, so I guess can't be that bad in terms of handling if he's going to be willing to run it through, because he does have to come in one more time for fuel, so you would have thought if it were an issue, he would have come down that time and killed 2 birds with 1 stone.
Nick Nickerson out of the pits now. Quick pit stop for him. Now a couple less drivers a lap down. Now only the top 5 cars left on the lead lap. But it wouldn't surprise me if the 26 car of Garrett Hall goes a lap down soon, as does the 13 car, as quick as Nickerson is running. Definitely be something to keep an eye on. The 13 and the 26, both about 2 seconds.
Well, speaking of those 2 particular cars, talking about Ferreira and Hall did just pass Ferreira for 4th, but Ferreira came into the pits that last time by. But both guys were the next cars ahead of the 2 of Nickerson on track. So now that they're going to pit momentarily, at least you'd expect Garrett Hall to probably the next lap or the one after that unless he's able to make it on fuel, which is possible. He was the last car to pit on that last stint. Yeah, besides him, nobody in even the postal code of Nick Nickerson right now. He's just got tons of space in front of him to work with, and the one issue that may have put the end to Nick Nickerson's race is going to be all but null and void for the rest of the event once Garrett Hall comes into the pits.
See the 75 car of Grodzecki, a little bit of trouble for him getting through that corner, but sitting cleanly in 8th position right now.
Looking throughout the field, not sure if there was any particular reason for it. Maybe just a battle a moment ago with Nickerson and Yancey. Yancey in the 51 just passed Nick Nickerson into corner number 7 there. So really interesting to see Yancey with considerable damage. He's made his way through from 25th to 5th at this point. So he's had the pace all race, but just past the leader. I know that Nickerson just had a bit of an issue. No visual damage, but the 2 is definitely looking a little bit more rattled, a little bit less, on rails than he has the last couple of laps. So not sure what's happening there to the 2 car, but Curtis Yancey, got to give him a little individual props award for probably being the only guy to pass Nickerson on track all race.
So far, probably the only driver to do it, except for when Nickerson came down pit road, and I would assume he'll be the only one to all night.
Yeah, this battle is going to happen right in front of the battle for 4th. Is going to happen right in front of the 2 car there. You saw that Hall and Yancey were about to get into it. Let's see if that does end up coming to blows. But yeah, just going to look at Ricky Hart Jr. again, guy that's had some troubles so far this race. But overall, I mean, for a guy that won last season, is doing everything he needs to. It's such a tricky road course like this to go back to back.
You see a little bit of trouble for him as we go to his Skype camera. So you can see him working on the wheel. We'll see if we can follow him throughout the lap and see the way he works on his wheel. Obviously, he's in VR, so not able to see his face too well. But some trouble there and definitely some frustration out of the driver of the 64 car of Ricky Hart Jr.
It's interesting, though, to get the hand cam there as he spins the car around. Doesn't even do like the full, 3-point turn there to back it out of the runoff road. He just hits the gas, lets the wheel spin around on its own, and actually made it stick. One of the most impressive flick turns I've ever seen. So props to the defending champion on that one. So I'm not sure what's happened on track in terms of distances, but I think we may have had issues for the 85 of Cody Welch. He's showing up a second now on the timing tower. And, he came into the pits and Lacey, right as we talk about it, again, it's the jinxing thing, right? Is in this corner, every time we throw to a car, they wash it through. So the 85 is going to lose the back end, gets it back up to speed. But Benjamin Lacey, who now comes into the pits, might have just about the perfect leeway he needs. So keep an eye on that battle for second there in the gap as Lacey exits. And if he knows that Welch is now behind him and he knows he had that issue, maybe going to take less tires than he was planning and might even take less fuel, trying to make it a little closer to make sure he can stay ahead of him coming out of the pits. Oh, the 7 misses the box, slides through his pit box, so he's going to take a moment to get in. Still having trouble getting in. Finally, he's able to, but that, right as I suggested, that might be able to come out ahead of Welch. That'll kind of reset, and you're going to see the 85 car come through the foreground. There he goes. So 85 car is all well and good, is going to hold on to second place. But again, Lacey, as long as he comes out ahead of Curtis Yancey, which actually isn't a guarantee, as Yancey does come by him, or he's about to come by the pit exit in just a moment, that might be a close battle off pit road. Keep an eye on those 2 cars.
You see the 51 car of Yancey, and all the way back here, 7 car of Benjamin Lacey. So Yancey able to take 3rd position, Lacey back to 4th.
I'll throw it to you, Evan, because I can't remember. Has Yancey taken the second pit stop already?
Yes. Nick Nickerson, Cody Welch, Curtis Yancey, and Benjamin Lacey have all taken 2 pit stops, as has Brandon Jackson, Kevin Foster, Peter Murphy, Matt Crockett, and Hunter Henry.
Wow, so what seemed like a fairly certain top 3 there just a couple laps ago has now been shaken up, and Curtis Yancey goes from 25th all the way to 5th a moment ago and is now in the podium spots. Great race by the 51 car.
The 13 car now pressuring the 29 of Robert Mathis, looking to take the 6th position here, side by side, as they dive down into the corner. The 13 on the inside, 29 on the outside, and Robert Mathis losing the position.
Back on board with Curtis Yancey, who's still just chugging along. Benjamin Lacey not too far behind, and if their pace in qualifying is, or pace in practice, I should say, is anything to go off of, Curtis Yancey actually running a quicker time in the very little practice immediately pre-race. So maybe something to go off of. Maybe the pure pace of Curtis Yancey is starting to show, and even though he may have qualified ahead, or sorry, behind, 22 spots behind to be exact, from Benjamin Lacey, well, he's made his time up, and maybe he's going to continue that momentum in this last 8 laps dash to the finish.
Jason Greenwell in the 83 car, a little bit of trouble before he entered pit lane, but able to smoothly enter to take his 2nd stop of the day.
Just trying to look through the field to see who is who is possibly going to either gain or lose a position. Looks like everybody has, for the most part, spread out. Christopher Ferreira and Robert Math is probably the closest battle on track right now between the 13 car and the 29. You see Robert now coming through that 5 and 6 section of the track, probably the widest on the entire circuit. But up there ahead in the gray Beat Cancer livery there is Christopher Ferreira. So not a huge gap separating these 2 cars, and with 7 laps to go, even about 2 seconds is nothing to make up with a couple small mistakes.
As you were saying that was the closest battle, but now Kevin Foster gaining a little bit on the 11 car of Bill Harkins. Into the wall a little bit for the 11.
Yeah, Kevin Foster going to gain another position and work his way through the field. Both guys that Kevin Foster actually started in 10th, so he's worked his way all the way back up to where he began. But Bill Harkins, another guy, not to only discount, Curtis Yancey's performance, and not to only say he was the only heavy mover throughout the race. Harkins up 9 spots, now I guess 8 spots with Foster getting by. But again, Bill Harkins feels like every race he comes out, doesn't always qualify near the top. In fact, I think he missed one in the first 2 races. But he gets on the track and just slowly chips away at spots throughout the race, and by the end of it, always seems to come away better than when he started.
Yeah, always a good run from the 11 car. He never really focuses on the race as much as he does running the race and making sure that everything is running smoothly. But then once everything starts running smoothly and he kind of is able to actually focus in on just driving the car, always ends up running a really good race. See him sitting in 10th position right now, right in front of Kevin Foster in the 8 car and 11. Now you see the 51 car of Yancey to the inside of Ricky Hart Jr. and getting a little bit loose there, but able to make the pass stick. Yancey a lap ahead of Ricky Hart Jr.
Yeah, the 64 to this point, still with that damage he suffered a long time ago. The hood of that car has been missing for the better part of 20 laps. But again, it doesn't seem to be affecting the 64 car, and definitely rolling with the punches there. As you can see back to the face cam, we'll see just how much he has to turn that wheel and keep his hands moving. It doesn't, seem to be having too many issues. You'll see on the straightaways, keep an eye on that red line on the top of his wheel. I have the same G29 there, so keep an eye on that wheel up there at the top. Should be pointing directly 90 degrees into the air on the straightaways. We'll see as he comes through here. Doesn't seem to be, shuffling his hands too much to keep it straight. The red line doesn't seem to be, angled either way. So it's working for him. It's good to see. And yeah, the last thing you want from a top driver. Oh, right as I suggest that, into the wall. Again, it's every time we go to somebody that we have issues, collects another car as well. So it's yeah, the straightaways are not the problem. Maybe that car's just hard to run. Maybe he had some issues with getting the brakes load up. Could be a number of issues, but just unfortunate luck there for Ricky Hart in the 64.
Nick Nickerson in the 2 car, though, with 5 laps to go. Even though he's leading the race, I feel like we haven't talked about him a whole lot. 5 laps to go. See, getting around the 60 car of Dustin Franklin, your Daytona winner. Sideways, right in the turn. Lapped everyone but the 85 of Welch and the 51 of Yancey.
Now he's getting awfully close. Yancey's just up the road as he comes out here at turn number 4. But again, it's stuff like how he just passed the 60 of Dustin Franklin there when he went around. It's stuff he's done all race. I don't know how throughout the course of 40 laps. We haven't seen him have one slip up with a lap car, even get a little loose into a corner, have to make a major save. The guy just finds a way around. It's like he knows the crashes are going to happen before the drivers in them do. It's a very impressive skill, kind of a sixth sense for the number 2 car.
A little bit of a battle here between the 11 car of Bill Harkins and the 75 of Jared Grodzecki. Grodzecki got in front. Bill Harkins able to battle a little bit in that turn, though, but eventually 75 of Jared Grodzecki going to take the 9th position away, relegate Bill Harkins back down to 10th in the 11 car. 8 of Kevin Foster looking to make the pass now, and Foster going to take the 10th position. The 11 back down into 11th position.
Yeah, again, so much of a momentum gain here at Long Beach. Once you have to move out of your line and let a car by or get passed by another car, it may throw off your traditional on-rails approach to each corner. So once you're out of the line in one corner, you're probably out of the line in the next one, and so on and so forth. That may be what we just saw for the 11 of Bill Harkins. But keep an eye on this battle, actually. 75 of Grodzecki is going to lock up coming into corner number 4. May leave the door open for Kevin Foster to take a second spot. He's going to cut down in front of him quite aggressively into turn 5. So the 75, but it's going to backfire on him. Runs straight through into the wall. So Harkins back into the top 10. Foster back up into 9th. And Jared Grodzecki, in his attempt to make a big defensive move there, slides through and just one mistake can cost you only 2 positions here at Long Beach. But over the course of a race, it could be pretty vital.
So you see now the 8 car of Kevin Foster in 9th. The 11 of Bill Harkins in 10th, and Grodzecki back to 11th.
So Nick Nickerson in the 2 car has now passed Curtis Yancey on track, and up ahead, I believe, is Cody Welch just at the end of the straightaway he's on. So he's getting there. The ultimate task at this point, because you'd imagine the 2 car of Nickerson probably just wants a goal to try to achieve at this point, something to really push himself for, and maybe not be the best strategy for finishing the race clean, but certainly the most fun. So he's probably going to try to pass every car he can on track. And actually, sorry, he did give the spot back to Yancey. Too many similar looking cars, so still not quite past him yet, but getting very, very close to the second to last car of the night.
A little bit of trouble for that 51 is not going to help him out. Be just that much easier for the 2 car to get a little bit closer to him. But if you remember back to a little bit earlier, the 51 car of Curtis Yancey, one of the only guys who has been able to pass Nickerson. Now, he wasn't passing him for position. The 51 car was a lap down, but nevertheless able to get by the 2. We'll see if he can hold him off now that the 2 is behind him and looking to put him a lap down.
Keeping an eye throughout the field as we see if Nickerson can indeed make the pass here on Yancey. Yancey's got to get by the 75 of Grodzecki, who's had a couple of troubles this last couple of laps. You saw him in the battle originally with Harkins and Foster, but ran through, caught a wall, and took some damage there. So missing the front hood that seemed to be working for Ricky Hart. He's been missing it for a while, and for a while he didn't have any issues as a result. So just one more car that may serve as a hindrance for Nick Nickerson, but another one is time, right as we see the 51 slide through. So Curtis Yancey almost lost it there in turn number 9, but managed to save it. But the one thing left to prevent Nickerson from getting every driver a lap down, other than himself, is well, time. We're going to be 2 to go this next time by.
See Grodzecki take that turn wide, back in 11th position. Let the 2 of Nick Nickerson take the position away from him. And Curtis Yancey into the Acura billboards. Nick Nickerson will take the position. Now Cody Welch, the only driver not a lap down.
Well, Curtis Yancey's got to watch out as well. Noticeable steering damage there to that 51 car. That was a huge impact off the turn 1 outside wall. So you'll see that the front right tire is offset from the rest of the car, actually sticking out like an open wheel car. And if you watch him on the straight, when I was talking about Ricky Hart earlier, where the wheel was still straight and still 90 degrees, I don't think it would be right now for Curtis Yancey. So that car's going to have some damage. Might have to bring it into the pits. And if he doesn't, this might be the opportunity for Lacey to make up some time in these final 2 laps and take back the final podium spot.
Yancey going to do his best to limp it back around here with 2 laps to go. See, there goes Nickerson. And Cody Welch a good bit ahead, a driver around in front of Welch, able to make it through cleanly, though. As does Nickerson. Nickerson not too far behind, but still with only 2 laps to go. We'll see if he can make it before this race is over.
Going to come to the white flag this time by. Going to be 1 to go as he comes to the sweeping right-hander. There's the line. So 1 lap to go here, but a minute and a half left in tonight's race. Nick Nickerson, again, just an absolutely dominant performance. It's one of the greatest road course exhibitions I've ever seen put on. But again, it's not over yet. I mean, 1 lap to go. But we've seen top guys all throughout the race having difficulties. And if he's really too focused on Welch, and he really wants to make up those 2 seconds, could force himself into a mistake.
There you see the gap. Not too much from Nickerson to Welch. Now, who knows if Nickerson is really going to push and try and get him, but as a driver that hasn't had too much competition all day, you've got to really want to be able to say that you lapped the entire field.
Well, it'd certainly be nice, and at a certain point, if you're Cody Welch and you let him lap you, that's 1 less lap you have to run, and it gets you 2nd place quicker. So again, important to keep in mind that if he were to fall back to the lap down and finish the race, he would guarantee himself a 2nd place spot. So that almost becomes a weird loophole, I think, in the rules with how laps work. But we're coming to the finish line. Cody Welch looks like he's going to survive, is not going to become prey to the final lap car of the race. But Nick Nickerson coming through turn number 9, turn number 10 in just a moment, now into turn 11 in the hairpin. It's been an absolute clinic put on by the number 2 car. I've heard rumors of a legend, a great god of road course racing all season, and well, tonight we got to see it in action. Nick Nickerson, what a race. Coming to the line, the 2 car here at Long Beach, round 3, 3rd winner of the season. Nick Nickerson wins at Long Beach Street Circuit. What a race for Nick Nickerson in the 2 car.
And a great run from him. Cody Welch here sitting in 2nd position. See him coming around the fountain turn.
Well, he can now guarantee himself 2nd place, as with every other car but him being lapped. Well, it means that everybody is going to get the checkered but him that last lap by. So Cody Welch will finish 2nd officially. Curtis Yancey just came across for 3rd. Benjamin Lacey not crazy far behind, but Yancey was able to keep that spot he robbed at the last second. Let's go back to this battle for that 6th there, 13 and 29. Mathis washing through a little bit. Ferreira might have the better run if he can try the over-under here into the hairpin. He does, gets under the quarter panel. He's going to spin the 29. The 29 tries to cut across right at the exit of the corner. Doesn't manage to get him. He's going to back up. He's going to try to reverse his way across the line. Jackson will get him as well, so he's going to lose 2 spots in 1. Takes a huge lake off the wall. Who is that after him? I don't see Foster and Harkins anywhere near. He's going to get in front of, what car is that? Almost gets a collision happening with whoever that is. Kevin Foster is going to get him as well. So Robert Mathis loses 3 spots there in the last lap, comes home for 9th. But wow, things can go wrong here quick at Long Beach, and that is probably the best example possible to prove that.
You see Bill Harkins, looks like he has some trouble here. Is he out of fuel possibly? Just barely limping around the final corner.
Just gonna check.
Maybe he's just pulled to a stop after the race.
I think, no, he's not done yet, at least if the graphics anything to go off. It looks like he has to come around one more time, so I'm not sure. It wouldn't be a burnout because there's no tire smoke. His revs are non-existent on his speedometer, so not really sure what's happening there to the number 11 car.
Not sure, but nevertheless, We're going to go ahead and head to a commercial real quick. We'll be right back. We'll give you our final results as well as interviewing our top 3 drivers. So we'll be back in just a second. What's up, guys? If you're watching this, then you already know. Here at Evan Wall Media is where I do my broadcasting. 5 laps to go. Brandon Jackson in the lead. Nick Nickerson. And he turns him! The 99 of Jackson gets turned by Nickerson. But I bet you didn't know that I also do in-person photography and videography, as well as graphic design, including, but not limited to, iRacing paint schemes and posters. Check it all out over at evanwallmedia.com. Thank y'all, and you enjoy the race. Are you looking for a clean, fun, and competitive iRacing league? Well, look no further than Bandit Racing League. This season features the Class B Xfinity Series cars in the Geezer Authentics Xfinity Series. Broadcast live every Wednesday by Evan Wall Media, the season features a 10-race regular season schedule, followed by 10 more playoff races and an all-star race. So if you need something to do on Wednesday nights, then check us out at banditracingleague.com and send us a message if you're interested in joining. We accept racers with a D license or above, and it's free to join, so don't miss out. Alright guys, we're back here at Long Beach, ready to go through our final standings of the day. So we're going to go ahead and pull it up. Of course, your winner, Nick Nickerson, in the number 2 car, the only driver that finished on the lead lap behind him. Cody Welch in the 85, followed by Curtis Yancey, Benjamin Lacey, Garrett Hall, the 26, in 5th. Christopher Ferrara, 13 car, in 6th, followed by Brandon Jackson. Kevin Foster, Robert Mathis, and Bill Harkins in the 11 car to round out the top 10.
Jarek Kradzicki in the 75 car narrowly missed out on the top 10 in 11th. Peter Murphy finishes in 12th. Matt Crockett finishes in 13th. Hunter Henry finishes in 14th. Running the top 15, Eddie Hagee there in 15th, with Ricky Hart Jr., defending champion, there right behind him in 16th. Jason Greenwell as well as Victor Weaver in 17th and 18th respectively. Then Dustin Franklin and Kim Janer round out the top 20.
12 laps down in 21st position was Alan Castle, the 16 car, followed by Terry Condis in the 32. James Healy, Brett Guzik, Bryce Buff Mack, Thomas Finsler, and Zach Hillman, 27th position. Thomas Finsler and Zach Hillman failed to start the race, but that is going to be your final standings, and we'll see if we can go ahead and get a current point standings up on the screen. Believe it is not going to update, so those are just your point standings from before. But nevertheless, let me throw it down to Marshall Crocker, who is with Curtis Yancey. Go ahead, Marshall.
Hey, Curtis, Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Awesome. Well, first of all, man, congratulations. 3rd place coming all the way from 25th on the grid. I know you didn't run a qualifying time, but you were quick in practice, and it showed there in the race. Coming up 22 spots at a track that's tight, hard to pass as Long Beach. Just what do you attribute your ability to get all those positions to over the course of tonight's race?
Definitely have to say avoiding all the squirrels that were throwing all the nuts on the track. Got around a few, got hit by a few, but also made a couple mistakes myself. However, glad to be out here with the top 3, especially starting dead last after last week in Iowa.
Right, and you come to Iowa to a short track, you come to the road course and do really well. Do you think that you have some sort of ability, you have a lot of pace here at road courses in general? Is it just Long Beach in specific you had a lot of pace? Like, how do you think you're going to be at the road courses going forward this season? And do you think you can put up this performance again?
I think we can definitely put up this kind of performance at future road courses. Maybe get a couple spots better, but definitely starting from 27th was not easy to get around. Couldn't even make it to the start finish line without being involved in a wreck here. So it just shows you how treacherous this place is.
Oh, it absolutely does. Brutal track, but you managed to come through and conquer it as best as almost anybody in the field. You go into next week at Atlanta. You go into round 4. You did well here at round 3 tonight. You're going to go to round 4 next week at Atlanta. You go back to slightly more traditional oval style track. How are you going to take what you've learned from Daytona and Iowa in terms of the oval side of things, go to a differently sized and shaped oval next week at Atlanta, and what should we expect from you in the 51 car?
Honestly, Daytona and Iowa, I don't think we can learn much from to race at Atlanta. Atlanta's its own different beast, but I think you should expect an exciting race next week at Atlanta, especially with the high tire deg.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll be something different than anything we've experienced so far this season. So that'll be a fun next step on the calendar. Well, best of luck, Curtis, in your season going forward. As we do in the end of every interview, do you have anybody you want to thank? Any sponsors you want to shout out? This is your time.
I just want to thank the guys back at H&M. Talked a lot about the setup, trying to figure out perfect brake bias. I think that also had to do with getting the top 3 here as we finished, I believe, 3rd, 5th, and 7th or 9th or whatever. But yeah, I have to definitely say thanks to them.
Awesome. Well, great race overall, man. Congratulations on the podium, first of the season. And with the pace you showed tonight, probably, well, I can almost guarantee it won't be the last time we talk to you this year. So best of luck in the rest of your season, Curtis. And we'll see you next Wednesday at Atlanta.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, and then finishing in second position was the number 85 car of Cody Welch. Cody, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, well, a great race from you, even though this race here at Long Beach was dominated by Nick Nickerson. You did a great job of staying up there and doing your best to stay as close to him as you could. He was looking to pass you, put you a lap down there at the very end. Is that something that was going through your head? Were you trying to stay on the lead lap there at the very end, or were you just trying to hold on as best you could?
I was just honestly trying to hold on as best I could. I got into the wall a little bit, about with 10 laps to go or so, and my car got really loose, and just trying to hold on there at the end. I had nothing for Nick. He's so good at these road courses. It's just crazy, but yeah, just holding on the best I could and trying to finish this thing out.
Yeah, well, nevertheless, great job, and some great battles that we saw on track between you and the 85 car, as well as the 51 of Yancey, the 7 of Benjamin Lacey. A lot of great battling. But is there anything else that you want to mention? What do you kind of expect going into next week as we go back to more of a traditional oval? Is that something that you're excited about, or do you really like these road courses?
I'm excited for sure. Atlanta's always been one of my favorite tracks. I've always seemed to run really well there, so definitely looking forward to it. As far as road courses go, I wouldn't say I'm good. I wouldn't say I'm comfortable. It was all about survival tonight, I think. A lot of people had a lot of speed. For me, I was just able to start out front and stay out of the RAF and bring it home.
Yes, sir. Well, you definitely did a great job of surviving the race all night. But before you head out, is there anything else you want to say? Anybody that you want to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my girlfriend for putting up with me and doing this every week or every Wednesday, and my family who supports me and loves watching me race on here.
Yes, sir. Well, great job. And the way you ran tonight, I'm sure that we will see you back up front. I'm sure you'll be in the interview booth before this season is over. So good luck to you the next season until we see you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and then now I'm going to throw it back over to Marshall as he interviews Nick Nickerson. Take it away, Marshall.
Hey, Nick, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going pretty darn well. And I mean, you promised the other week. You said we were going to come into the road courses. You were going to have a lot of pace, and I didn't know what to expect, but lapping almost everybody but the one driver left. I was not what I was expecting at all. Congratulations, man. You were an absolute monster tonight.
I appreciate it.
I mean, it's hard to put into words, but really, so coming into tonight, you're going to be quick at Long Beach. You probably know the track quite well from your past. What were you expecting? Like, what problems did you anticipate coming in, and did any of those come to fruition tonight?
Well, my biggest concerns were getting rear-ended going into turn one on the start of the race, and because that's a very sharp turn and it's very easy to make a mistake and miss the brake point. And also throughout the race, if anybody spun out around the corner, and it's, a lot of these corners are blind, so you don't know there's a car sitting there until you're there.
Right.
So that was kind of like the biggest obstacle for me. And just I was honestly just keeping the tires under the car. Track was very hot, so it was very slick, especially after 5 laps. I mean, when I had to do the 2 stints, or like a stint and a half, like towards those last 10 laps, man, like the thing was just, it was like driving on ice. It was bad. And I don't think I went full throttle except for the front straight the whole lap.
Yeah, so hard to in these cars, so easy to oversteer it, and here at Long Beach, so many 90-degree corners, so many little tough sections you don't see anywhere else, like the fountain corner. There's so many sections like that, but you worked through it tonight.
Yeah.
You did great, and rolling with the punches. And I mean, comparing this to any other track on the calendar, of course, this being the only street circuit we run all year, then we do in a couple of weeks we go to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. So as kind of the resident road course guy, as you're going to be until somebody's able to find the speed to challenge you. What do you expect compared to the rest of the tracks this season? You go to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. How do you feel at the street circuits versus at the dedicated road courses the rest of the year?
Well, the street courses are traditionally way more bumpy, and when you don't have a setup that's built specifically for that track, especially with these cars, are kind of sensitive, and it just kind of makes for not so much of a fun time. I think a lot of guys didn't have a lot of fun driving because we didn't have a soft suspension setup. I think when we go to, Canadian Tire Motorsports, and I think we go to Charlotte and Road America, those are all like, kind of purpose-built tracks. They're a lot smoother. It's a little bit more fun to race on compared to Long Beach. Long Beach is just kind of eye candy.
Yeah, fair enough. And it's eye candy that's hard for computers to run, I find, is the issue. So, well, a track next week that will hopefully be much easier to run. We go to Atlanta. We kind of get out of our three race stint of very different racetracks. We go to Daytona, Iowa, and Long Beach. And as we've been saying all season, you don't really get 3 much more different tracks than that. But we go to our 4th different discipline, kind of a mid-range oval there. So we go to Atlanta. Definitely a track that on tire degradation is huge, as Curtis mentioned in his interview. So how do you feel about rolling with tire deg? I know it's something that can come in handy at road courses, so maybe a skill that you have. But how do you feel about running at your 4th different style of race and keeping up to the pace you've had all season?
That's kind of my biggest issue is saving tires on like a super long run. Like now we're going to get back to the traditional Bandit way, which is double stinting a set of tires, and then we can get tires every next pit stop. And I think that's kind of like the best way for everybody to go about it, because you spend that first 2 fuel stints learning how to race around everybody, and you just kind of get more comfortable. And then when you start getting tires, that's when like the racing still goes. But it's a lot less chaotic than if we just started off and got as many tires as we needed. Everybody's more cautious because they're trying to save tires at the same time. So I think it's going to be a good race. I mean, I haven't practiced. I'm not sure if we need brake or not at that track. It's been a while since I ran at Atlanta, but I know it's a fast track, and always a ton of fun when we go there. I know last year was a great race.
Awesome. Well, hopefully it's going to be equally awesome this year. And you've, the race you won tonight was absolutely not a boring race, but you were certainly not doing your best to make it entertaining, but probably for the best you didn't. So sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying I was slowing down a lot just to make sure I didn't get any incidents on the last 10 laps. So I don't want to make too many bold moves on the guys that were lapped down. So.
Well, you managed to keep it interesting there in a way that I didn't expect, trying to see if you could lap every car on track. You gave us something to talk about for sure. And man, first of all, an achievement in itself, even everybody but one in a 27-car race, that's something. But as we do at the end of every interview, if you have anybody you want to thank at home, have any sponsors you want to shout out, this is your time to do so.
Man, just Bill and Matt for putting on this league. It's an amazing league now that I think this is my 3rd season with them. And, thank you and Evan for putting on the broadcast, man. The broadcasts are just phenomenal. I mean, I watched the first 2 of them, and yeah, it's kind of crazy to see how professional a broadcast can be for, basically a hobby.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to hear. Always a pleasure to hear that people are
Yeah.
enjoying what we're doing at home, especially the drivers that make it so much fun. And while you're certainly, again, you made tonight's race fascinating. You're going to make every road course this season exciting going forward. You give somebody a pinnacle to try to live up to. But for the rest of the season, it'll be a pleasure to see how you take that and go to the mid-range tracks like Atlanta and any other road course or any other oval we're going to go to this season. So it'll be a pleasure to see your work, I guess, at work the rest of the year. And can't wait to see you next Wednesday at Atlanta.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I appreciate it. And I'll definitely see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick.
All right.
All right, so with that is going to wrap up our broadcast here today. Nick Nickerson, the winner, of course. So be sure to join us next week as we head over to Atlanta Motor Speedway. So thank you all for joining here. That's going to wrap it up, and we will see you next week. Same place, same time, back on Evan Wall Media, my YouTube channel. Y'all have a great night. Sure to over to the east coast of the country to Hampton, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta, to Atlanta Motor Speedway, or formerly Atlanta International Raceway, a track that you might recognize from the opening scene of the 1980 movie Smokey and the Bandit 2. So be sure to catch us there, same place, same time, as here next week. We'll see you then.